Today we're going to be doing 7th grade math. We are doing chapter 4, lesson 8. Today we're talking about dividing fractions. So let's take a look at our notes. When we divide fractions, we're actually going to be taking a step here which is called the multiplicative inverse, or taking the reciprocal of a fraction, which means taking a fraction and flipping it. This very much needs to be in your notes. An example of taking the reciprocal of a fraction would be taking 1/2 and flipping it so that the 2 in the denominator becomes the numerator and the 1 in the numerator becomes 1 in the denominator. So 1/2 becomes 2 over 1. That is called taking the reciprocal. Step 1 is flipping the second fraction to get the reciprocal. So our example here would be 7/8 divided by 3/4. Now we're going to go to our whiteboard. 7/8 divided by 3/4. Now, there are specific steps we need to take. Number 1, we are not dividing. And I know that sounds a little weird, but once we take this first step, I'm going to show you what happens. So we take the reciprocal of the second number, which means we're going to flip this. This will now become 7/8, and the other one will become 4 over 3. After we take the reciprocal of the second one, division becomes multiplication. And now we can multiply straight across like we did in lesson 6. Now, another way to show this, and this is the way that I like to write this out. So the question again is 7/8 divided by, and I believe it was 3/4. I always use what I call the arrow method. Some teachers like saying copy dot flip or something like this. I use 3 arrows. The first fraction will come straight down as normal. So the straight arrow. The second arrow, we shake things up. We take that division and we shake it to become multiplication. And the third arrow, we flip it. That 3/4 becomes 4/3. Now that we've done our 3 arrow method, this becomes a multiplication problem, which means we can multiply straight across. Or, before multiplying straight across, as we learned in lesson 6, we can cross simplify if possible. We have a 4 and an 8 here that have common factors. 7 and 3 don't have any common factors, so we're not going to be dealing with those. 4 and 8 both have 4 in common. When I divide 4 by 4, it becomes 1. When I divide 8 by 4, it becomes 2. Now I can multiply straight across. 7 times 1 is 7. 2 times 3 is 6. This is an improper fraction. So numerator divided by denominator. 6 goes into 7 one time. That will equal 6. When I subtract, I will have 1 left over. My answer is 1 and 1/6. So again, according to our notes, step 1 is to flip the second fraction. We change the division symbol to multiplication, and then we can simplify before we multiply. Again, you don't need to simplify before multiplying. You don't need to find the cross simplification. It will make your job harder. So if you can simplify before you multiply, please do, because otherwise you will be simplifying later on. Or in this case, this improper fraction would have become a lot harder because you would have had 28 over 24, and you would have had to figure that out. And then again, when you have an improper fraction, it's numerator divided by denominator. Simplify your fractions, or as Steiner likes to call it, the simplify or die rule. Make sure that you simplify. Now, we will do a few examples here. And again, you can call it copy dot flip, you can call it the arrow method. I like the arrow method because it is a little bit more visual and you can see where the changes happen. So, let's take an example straight from our textbook here. Let's do some of the got it's. So we're going to have the same rules come back into play where we have whole numbers here. So we're doing 5 divided by 1 and 1/3. The same rules apply when it comes to division as it did with multiplication. So 5 divided by 1 and 1/3. I have to convert both of these to become actual fractions. So whole number will be put over 1. So we'll rewrite this down here. 5 over 1 divided by, and our mixed number needs to become an improper fraction. 1 times 3 would be 3, plus 1 would be 4. This would become 4 over 3. So again, whole numbers need to be put over 1. Mixed numbers need to be converted into improper fractions. Whole number times denominator, add it to the numerator, put over the original denominator. So, pulling this back up, this is our new problem. Now we're going to our 3 arrows. First fraction gets pulled down, straight down. We shake up the division to make it multiplication, and we flip the second fraction, or we take the reciprocal of it. Now we can multiply straight across. I will check for cross simplification. 1 and 3 have no common factors. 5 and 4 have no common factors. So there is no cross simplification to be had here. This will now become 15 over 4. This is an improper fraction, so we simplify. 4 will go into 15 3 times, which will be 12. When I subtract, I'll have 3 left over. My answer will be 3 and 3/4. And that is my answer. Resetting our whiteboard for another example. Negative 3/4 divided by 1 and 1/2. Negative 3/4 divided by 1 and 1/2. Now, I'm going to ignore the negative. Again, we have 2 numbers. Remember, when you divided a negative by a positive, the answer would be negative when we use whole numbers. We're going to save that negative to the end. Our answer is going to be negative because there's only one negative involved. I'm going to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. So our new equation will be negative 3/4 still, divided by 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. It will be 3 over 2. Now that I have written my division problem, the 3 arrows are coming into play. This comes straight down. We shake up the division symbol to multiplication, and we flip or take the reciprocal of the second fraction. Cross simplification here, I have 2 and 4 on one side, and on the other side, I have 2 3s. So, in order to change this up, I'm going to divide. The 3's will cancel out and become 1's because they're the same number. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And over here, this 2 will become 1, and this 4 will become 2 because they both have 2 in common. When I divide 2 by 2, it becomes 1, and divide 4 by 2, it becomes 2. I will multiply straight across, which will be negative 1 over 2. Or negative 1/2. It is simplified, and that is my answer. And our last example here, we have 2 and 1/3 divided by 5. 2 and 1/3 divided by 5. And that division symbol looks a little wonky, so I'm rewriting it. So, again, we have 2 non-fractions here. We will convert our mixed number, whole number times denominator, add it to numerator. 2 times 3 is 6, plus the 1 is 7. This will become 7 over 3, and that whole number will be put over 1. So this becomes 7 over 3 divided by 5 over 1. The arrows come into play. First fraction gets pulled straight down, shake up the division symbol to become multiplication, take the reciprocal of the second fraction. Cross simplification here, 7 and 5 have no common factors, 1 and 3 have no common factors. We are just going to multiply straight across. This will become 7 over 15, and 7 and 15 have no common factors. Therefore, my answer is 7/15. And that is my answer. So again, in your notes, you should have the entire method on how to divide fractions. Again, first fraction stays the same. We change it from division to multiplication, and we flip the second fraction. And then again, remember, all numbers need to be fractions. So if it's a whole number, put it over 1. If it's a mixed number, turn that thing into an improper fraction so that you can multiply. Any questions, comments, or concerns, again, you guys know how to reach me. This is Mr. P, and I'll catch you guys on Chapter 1.